It's the worst locust invasion in decades for Kenya, Ethiopia and Somalia. Nearly 200 billion of the creatures, occupying a space in the sky 3 times the size of New York City, has engulfed the region, threatening agriculture and food production. Somalia have already declared a national emergency, and now the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization warns that the outbreak could get much worse. For more on this, joining me via Skype from Nairobi, Kenya, is Sergio Inconcente. Sergio is the FAO's Regional Early Warning, Early Action, Preparedness and Response Advisor at the Resilience Team for Eastern Africa. Sergio, thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global. I think most of us by now would have seen those really quite frightening images. Where on earth have these locusts come from?
Well, good morning, Juliana, and thank you very much for having me. The locusts, they are migratory insects, and in the specific, this invasion is due to the recent cyclone that hit on East Africa in December, and that changed and created the favorable conditions for the locusts to become gregarious and then to build swarms. So the situation has really changed since December, and now we are facing what has been described as one of the worst crises of East Africa for the past worst invasion. Obviously, we refer to crisis due to locusts. So one of the worst in the past 25 years for 3 of the most affected countries. And for Kenya in particular, they haven't seen something similar for the past 75 years.
We're speaking to you. We're speaking to you in Nairobi. The connection's not fantastic, but thank you for joining us anyway. What's the difference between what's happening in Kenya and what's happening in Somalia? Because Somalia, of course, earlier this week have declared this a national emergency. Why?
There is no substantial difference from what is happening across the region. The 3 most hit countries remain Somalia, Kenya, and Ethiopia. Indeed, Somalia, amongst the 3, is the one that is having at the moment the poorest control operation. And therefore their locusts are not under control. And I guess this is what indeed encouraged the Minister of Somalia to raise the alert that this can become indeed a national emergency.
What is
we are...
No, please continue, Sergio.
Yes, I was saying, we are soon approaching the new planting season in the region. And really anticipating the impacts on food security and livelihoods is our core focus at the moment. These locusts, they haven't created big damages so far, but the damages that can be expected if we don't control them, they will be of a scale and a magnitude that will be absolutely bad for East Africa.
Again, going back to the images which we will be showing, they do seem like a nuisance as well. These locusts are quite huge. Are they at all a threat to human life? I know they're a threat to human life in terms of the economic implications, but what about humans in general?
No. They are not a threat for human life in general. And actually, there are some communities that are eating the locust. So in reality, no, they are not a threat directly for human beings, but indeed, as you said, they are an absolutely big threat for the food security of the vulnerable communities in East Africa. And if you consider that at the moment we start from a caseload of close to 12 million people that are food insecure in the 3 most affected countries, you would agree with us that if we don't control this additional layer of stress for those communities, the impact that we may see in the next months to come could be very, very serious.
Absolutely. And you've warned about this for months and months. Could this outbreak have been prevented?
Not really. Let me say that, as I was saying, what really triggered this upsurge in the magnitude that we are experiencing today, it was a change in the weather conditions that happened towards the beginning of December last year, with the cyclone that hit East Africa, and that created favorable conditions. So it's really such a dynamic and ever-changing situation. Forecasting today, 2 months ago, it would have been not really feasible.
I don't like to end a discussion on a doom and gloom, especially because the FAO are doing so much hard work out there. But Sergio, how bad could this get?
How bad can this get? It's difficult. It's difficult to predict, especially because it will also depend on how much effort we put in the next months or months and a half in doing control, and how much effort we put in the next few months in repositioning kits that can protect livelihoods wherever they will be affected. So it is a combination. Predicting how bad it will be is a combination of factors that can make the situation very bad, or that can make the situation to improve quickly. And a lot depends on us, a lot depends on the international community and the support that these affected countries will receive in the next weeks.
Well, I hope it does get the support it needs. It's a devastating plague and clearly affecting regions that are already suffering from food insecurity. But Sergio Inconsciente, thank you so much for joining me on Channel's Business Global. And thank you to the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations for doing their best to protect these sometimes forgotten communities. Thank you so much.